Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how I'll be installing paddle shifters on my 3rd gen Lexus GS. If you like these paddle shifters and you'd like to get your hands on a pair, you can order them through my Facebook page, which I have included a link to that in the description of this video, and you can go on there and contact me and order a pair of these very paddle shifters. So we're going to begin by removing all the plastic trim that gets in our way. So going to be removing this piece and the airbag cover and the piece of trim that sits under the steering wheel, and that should allow us enough space to run wires from the shifter into the steering wheel through the clock spring. And I'll show you the next step, how we're going to hook up the paddle shifters into the clock spring. Alright, so I've gone ahead and unscrewed the shift knob, and now we'll put the car into drive so we have enough space to pull off this piece of trim. And this basically just pulls off just like this all around, and then it just pulls forward and slides off. Now with that off and the wires unplugged, we're going to go ahead and remove the airbag cover and run the wires. To remove the airbag cover, you'd want to take off these pieces of trim on the sides of the steering wheel, one around here and one just around the cruise control lever right there. So now I've taken off the side cover, and you'll be taking out this hex head screw which holds the airbag in place, and there's an identical one on the other side where the cruise control lever is. Here's the airbag off, and a side note about how I got the screws off. I'm using a wrench with a socket instead of a screwdriver because it's pretty tight on there, so that helps with getting it off. So now all I'll have to do is run wires from the paddle shifters into the steering wheel, through the clock spring and right around and to the shifter down here. So our next step will be to remove these screws, and you'll notice I've tilted the steering wheel a little bit to access them, and these hold the panel that's underneath the steering wheel, which has the plug on the other end of the clock spring. After removing these screws, there's one more down here which we're going to take off, and the panel should come off and give us access to the plug for the clock spring. So here we have our plugs for the clock spring, and the wires we're going to be using are the yellow and black one right there, and that empty slot which we're going to make up a pin for, and one's going to be for the upshift and the other's going to be for the downshifting. So this is the plug for the clock spring on the bottom of the steering column, and the wires we're going to be using are the green one right there and this empty slot here, which correspond with the two I just showed you on the airbag side. So now I'll be putting on the paddle shifters right here. They basically just stick to the back of the steering wheel, and I'll run the cable in so I have the cable ready to go. I'll put some pins on it and pin it to the clock spring. It's going to stick just like this. So I'll go ahead and stick them on and come back and put the wiring through. Alright, so here's the paddle shifters on, and they're looking absolutely gorgeous. And here's the wires for them, running straight through the back behind the plastic trim. And now I'll hook up the feed that'll be feeding into the paddle shifters, and then we're going to put the clips on them, or the clip on one of them, and the other one's going to go to the yellow and black wire right there. And we're going to move on to the next step after that of running the wires from the clock spring to the shifter. Okay, so I went ahead and chopped the yellow wire and connected the downshift cable from the shifter into it, and now I'll be doing the same thing for the upshift. All I need to do is just make up a pin that goes in the slot, and then I'll hook up the feed to the two buttons, and we'll run the wiring into the gear lever. So now I've got the little pin on the end of the wire, and it's all crimped. So what you have to do is take off this little section, the one with the red dot on it. Basically just pops up. Get a thin razor blade or something to stick under it, just pop it up. This allows the pin to click into place, and then once it's clicked in, you just press it back in and it'll permanently lock it in there. Now I've got the pin and the plug all ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and find the plug that has the shifting wires in the center console, and it should be the one that's attached to this white wire going down there. So what I'll do is take off this side panel, which attaches with one screw and the rest are clips, so it basically goes that way, pushes out that way and pulls out this way and comes off. That should give us access to the plug down there. Now we've pulled off that piece of trim, and if you pull back the carpet a little bit, the plug will be straight down there. I've already gone ahead and taken it out, you can see it right there, and we'll be splicing into that, and I'll just be showing you in just a second what colours you'll be cutting. And I've gone ahead and fished out the wire from under there. These are the colours on the plug. So the ones you're after are the red one and the blue one. The red one's going to be a downshift and the blue one's going to be the upshift. And you have the other plug that plugs into it, that goes into the car, and the reason why I'm not splicing to that one is it's too short and it goes into that harness right there, so we're going to be doing all the splicing on this end because we've got plenty of length to work with. And now I've got the wire spliced into the shifter, and I have this pin to the top of the the upshift wire, and this one's just stripped because it's going to an existing wire down on the dash. So I use the continuity check to make sure I've got the right ones because both my wires are actually the same colour. So if you end up doing the same thing, make sure you know which one's which. And now that I have the clip on, I won't lose them. Now this wire is going to be passing under the radio and through the dash, up under this panel and into the steering column right there. And then it's just going to get spliced into the plug for the clock spring, and that's the wiring complete from the steering wheel to the shifter. Now we've got the wires all the way to the steering wheel, to the clock spring plug. So we're going to cut this green wire and splice it into the wire we have here, and then this pin is going to go in this gap right there. And that should be a full connection from the gear lever into the clock spring. And here we have the wires all connected up, ready to go. Alright, so this is the moment of truth now where we test them out. So we're going to go ahead, put the car into sports mode, and you can see they're in 5th gear, and let's have a look. And there you have it. It worked perfectly. Let's try the upshift now. And that works beautiful. Alright, so thanks for watching, and